Welcome back to The Truth Factory. I'm your base cat and I want to talk about Steve Scalise. It's been a few days since he was shot and I want to talk about some interesting things. In my last video I talked about the shooter, Mr. Hodgkinson, and how he had a foster daughter which he abused and she was taken away. But before he had her, he actually had another foster daughter who was 17 years old, and after only a month of living with him, she committed suicide by fire. Now, most 17-year-old girls do not commit suicide by pouring gasoline on their head and lighting themselves on fire, so there are two explanations. One, whatever abuse she was experiencing, whether that be physical or sexual, was so bad that she would rather light herself on fire and burn to death than live with that man anymore. Or two, he killed her and burned her body to get rid of the evidence, possibly including DNA evidence if he had raped her. Now, the 17-year-old girl was known as being level-headed, and we know that this man has tried to kill people, so I'm going with theory number 2.
So our accident is not an accident at all.
This was a sick man who abused children, and he still was allowed to adopt another foster child and own a gun that could conquer California. This reminded me a bit of Dennis Hastert, the former bigwig congressman who started as a gym coach who molested young boys. Now, how does a pedophile gym coach become the 51st Speaker of the United States House of Representatives for 8 years? Through connections to high-ranking Democrats like the Podesta brothers. They seek out people like them to work with because they know they can expose their secrets without spilling their own closet skeletons as well. They also use it to blackmail each other to get dirty work done. We also know that Hodgkinson may have had some links to some members of government. We also see this in cases like this DC police chief who has mishandled several child abuse cases, or the DC police chief Aaron Rao who happens to be friends with James Alefantis, the star of Pizzagate. Now, if James Alefantis is his real name, it's kind of ironic, and I have a sneaking suspicion that is an obvious dog whistle to pedophiles, as the French words "I like children" are "Je m'y les enfants." James Alefantis. Pretty close, right? Other people have pointed out a woman named Rachel Chandler who has had ties to the Clintons and other big celebrities since she was 14. Many people think that she is a child handler for the elite. Chandler, child handler, get it? It's like if the leader of the KKK's name was Nate Higgers. Like, come on. And the name that James used as the owner of the Pegasus Museum, which is probably a torture palace for the elite pedophiles, is Castellum Achilles. Now, if you've looked into James, you know that he's into Roman symbolism, with Achilles being his alleged middle name. But I think it's more symbolic, as Achilles was a powerful man who only had one weakness, his heel, and that's what brought him down. James' Achilles' heel is his pedophilia, and Castellum translates in Latin to castle, so Pegasus Museum is his pedophile castle. Now back to Scalise. Something that I've read over and over, just like during the Seth Rich assassination, is people saying, well, if it was really a hit, why did they get an untrained idiot to do it? And to that I say, I think you've watched too many movies. Now, if a KGB or a 007 motherfucker comes up in a suit and fires a single bullet into Scalise's head and walks away, then it is a confirmed assassination. But if you get a messy, crazy guy who hates Republicans, it's easy to cover it up, like it was here. And sometimes they'll poison them like they did with Andrew Breitbart and call it a heart attack, but then you have to kill the coroner too, like how they had to kill Andrew Breitbart's coroner who was poisoned with arsenic the day the report was supposed to come out. And when you shoot someone like this, you can blame it on gun control issues, which they do. Either way, if those cops were not there, Scalise and the other Republicans would have been killed. Now, Scalise was shot in the hip, and although that would really suck, straight off the field they were reporting that he seemed okay, but then all of a sudden he was in critical condition, which I thought was a little weird. And then I saw this man.
I understand he was awake on scene, but by the time he was transported by helicopter to the MedStar Trauma Center, he was in shock.
Remember Dr. Sava from the Seth Rich videos? Well, he's back. But apparently MedStar does have the best gunshot trauma team in DC, so it does make sense that Scalise would go to a trauma surgeon at MedStar, and there probably aren't so many of them, so he got Dr. Sava. But I'm still suspicious of this, as this is probably the same doctor that operated on Seth Rich. Also, we know for a fact that Sava and his wife are connected to John Podesta, as he's in the emails, and he has visited the White House many times. We also know through the Podesta emails that the Democrats did not like Scalise, and they were trying to make a smear campaign petition to try to remove him from office because of his apparent ties to the KKK. But we all know the real reason they wanted him out
is that human trafficking is a real problem plaguing each and every community here in the United States.
What a convenient day to do it too. They knew that he had baseball practice and it was Trump's birthday, so he would be preoccupied, so they could shoot him and finish the job at the hospital if needed. But instead, Trump canceled his plans and went to see him at the hospital and brought his presidential physician with him. Very smart. This way the doctor can analyze Scalise, and if something fishy goes down, he can hang everyone involved rightfully, as he is a professional witness who would be able to state if they fucked around with Scalise. Now, I don't know if that physician stayed there to treat Scalise though, but I have a suspicion that he was supposed to die and he didn't, based on what Nancy Pelosi said.
But personally heartbroken over what happened to Steve Scalise, our colleague.
She almost said that he died. We all know that that's what she said because that was probably written in her script because she knew that this was a hit. And guess who's next in line for Nancy Pelosi's job? Steny Hoyer, the man who sent pizzas to Steve's office. Kinda interesting, hey? I guess if one good thing can come out of this is that Scalise is alive and people's attention is back on Pedogate. And every time something like this happens, we get a little closer to solving it. And it also reveals more players that are involved in the Pedogate conspiracy. Thank you and have a great night.